Yo, what is going on, guys? Johnny GB here with the Token Minorities, bringing you guys an exclusive interview with one of the players that was playing in the Brisbane Regionals. What was it, last week, Bird? I think it was last week.
Yeah, last week, man.
Sam Clayfield, aka the Bird, somebody I have known in the Pokemon community for 3 years now. One of the OG people I actually met up in this community, and I'm happy he's playing my game now with Pokemon TCG after I stepped into his draft league community. Say hi to everybody.
G'day jabronis, how's it going? It's the Bird here, or as I guess you know me now, Sam. But yeah, really happy to be here to talk with Johnny today.
So, Bird's somebody that Jolt and Styx know pretty well in the just draft league community, but in the TCG community, Bird has now started going out to regionals, and you're now, what, 124 points now?
126. So I was on 66 points heading into the regional in Brisbane, and I ended up finishing 26th out of 151, which was top 32, which got me another 60 CP.
So that puts you just over the halfway mark of that 250 to go to Worlds next year, right?
Yeah, so yeah, just over the halfway point now, which I started playing, so I'm going to cover a little backstory as to how this all happened. So as Johnny said, I very much was a draft league player when it came to Pokemon. I kind of dabbled in the TCG a little bit, more for pack openings than anything else, but never thought about playing the game competitively. I was doing VGC for a bit, which I didn't mind. It was a cool kind of format to look into, especially heading into, I guess, the new meta that we have now. I think it looks really exciting. But the Melbourne Esports Open came around. I'm not sure if they do this in America, Johnny, but the Melbourne Esports Open allowed 1 day of Pokemon TCG competition, and everything was basically done on that day, and then 1 day of Pokemon VGC. So the premise was that you could go and play TCG on that first day and still be able to play VGC the next day and get CP for both. Ooh. So I was like, hell yeah, I want to give this a shot. So signed up for both, and then realized I don't really know a lot about TCG. So I had about a month period to kind of learn the game. And in that time, Henry Brand had just recently won the World Championships. I saw that Mewtwo was a pretty broken deck. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try that. Spent a shit ton of money, because Mewtwo back then was incredibly expensive, and just spent tons of time learning the deck. Didn't do too great at the Esports Open. I just was still learning the game. But I was like, this is fine. This is late August when this happened. And I said, you know what? I'm going to stick with TCG and see where it goes. And from late August to now early December, I have got 126 CP. And there is 8 months until the next World Championship, in which all I really need is another 124 CP to be able to make it to London and actually compete for the title of World Champion, which to me just still feels a little bit surreal.
I mean, yeah, when you come in from something in Draft League where, I mean, you're in a community that's online and such, to now going to a world stage, especially in something that you picked up in 4 months now. Looking at the Pokemon TCG, there is plenty of ways to get into this without having to spend money. So the most common one, and this is one that Papa C, how he got into it, was the Necrozma boxes that were released a couple months ago, and then he added himself a couple of support cards here and there, just because, I mean, Ultra Necrozma is still a very good deck. Those that play the TCG know how to work around it. Even though that deck's been going on for almost 2 years, it's still doing decent. So, I mean, if you guys want to spend $40 to go buy these 2 Ultra Necrozma boxes, you can still play competitive Pokemon. Now, when we're looking at Verd's build here, he played Mew3, and I'll have you break down the deck. I do not have all the cards here on TCGO, but I have it up on the screen for you guys to take a look at his build. And starting off with most standard Mew3 builds, normally it's 4 Jirachi. I saw that you were playing 3.
Yeah, so a lot of the best decks were running 3. What I found, though, was that a lot of them were choosing not to run Reshiram and Charizard GX. and I still feel like that card is inherently so good in this metagame. 2 energies, which is easy like Welder straight onto that Pokemon, allows you to potentially just one-shot everything with Outrage. Flare Strike is actually a really important attack in the meta right now. I think that with Mallow and Lana being so common, Flare Strike hitting for as much as it does kind of nullifies the usefulness of Mallow and Lana in a lot of matchups, which is something I find incredibly appealing. So I really just think that the GX attack is really slept on by a lot of the TCG people that run Mewtwo. Obviously, yes, you rely on Greninja to try and deal with Keldeo in a lot of builds, but a lot of the ADP players now, sorry, ADP is Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia, for those who aren't aware. A lot of them are running this Girafarig from Lost Thunder with Get Lost, which takes 2 cards from the discard and puts them in the Lost Zone. So normally in that matchup, ADP wants to target your Solgaleo and your Greninja. So if you have the Reshizard as well, then if all they're expecting is like, I can just leave this one Keldeo inactive and I instantly win, you can just slap down that extra fire energy, declare Double Blaze, it ignores Keldeo's ability, and you just win the game. So, I don't know, maybe 4 Jirachi would have helped with consistency, but I can honestly say from the 8 games, and like from the whole build-up that I've had with this deck running the Jirachi engine, I haven't really had any issues with running 3. When I've needed it, I've been able to play it, and when I haven't needed it, it's not a big deal. It just becomes like kind of a discard fodder. So 4 is probably better if you want the consistency, but when we kind of go over the text that I'm running for the upcoming meta, I think it makes a lot more sense as to why there's 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that when I was noticing...
But yeah, Jirachi, I should have even explained, but Jirachi's a busted card. Being able to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and be like, okay, I need a Welder. Stellar Wish, oh cool, I hit a Welder, add it to hand. And it's really broken in combination with Guzma and Hala. Guzma and Hala allowing you to be able to freely search for an escape board for Jirachi, as well as finding Giant Hearth and an energy, is pretty nuts for the deck. And it just means that Jirachi can quite easily come out after a knockout, Stellar Wish, hunt for things like Reset Stamp or whatever, and just... It's a very good utility card. I think it was tossing up between that and Pokegear, but without the Jirachi, you will find that there's a lot of basics in the deck that you do not want to start with. So increasing your chance of starting with Jirachi or Mewtwo is probably the best bet for this deck. So that's why I ran 3 of each.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, that makes sense. And Jirachi, when it came out, there was a reason this card got up to $30 for a regular holo rare. This is probably one of the most sought after pre-release cards, I would say. And this is me going back to pre-releases all the way back to Crimson Invasion. And Jirachi is easily the most coveted of all the pre-release cards just because of how good it is. You are getting to search those 5 cards to find escape board, welders, whatever you need. And it's not like you're locked into one Jirachi per turn. Back when Pikarom and Reshizard were first coming up earlier this year, you would see 2 or 3 Jirachis pop up possibly in one turn just to help deck thin. And it's just kind of like a staple saying for any card game, deck thinning is deck winning. And Jirachi is just that card to do that. And you know what? I mean, the balance there, I do agree, because Reshizard has been a good card since it came out in May. Like, there's been nothing bad about Reshiram Charizard Tag Team GX. Now, the Greninja, I have the wrong Greninja up here. I will pull up the Greninja that Bird and I were actually talking about before starting to record, and this is the Greninja.
I'm assuming you have the Hay/Greninja.
Yes, the shiny one, the one that looks nice. So, the Greninja Bird's talking about is the one that we...
So, the funny thing was
Go for it.
So the funny thing about the Hay/Greninja is that was actually a card that was being tested a lot by people heading into the World Championships with the Rainbow Energy variant, before obviously Henry Brand showed people that straight basic energy was the way to go. The whole premise was that the Greninja was meant to allow you to beat the Malamar matchup, since they would consistently put the damage onto their Giratina, meaning it was always in range of a Hay/, and then you could just let your Mewtwo retreat, bring up another Mewtwo, and hope that, Giratina couldn't just knock you out next turn. The problem was that with Distortion Door, Giratina was always going to be able to get off that 10, and people weren't using Weakness Guard energy back then. Yep. So Giratina was easily able to hit for win and just smash through it in the matchup. So it was just bad. But I'll talk to you about the promo Greninja GX. So this card kind of came... It was always a consideration for a lot of people when it came out because of how strong Mist Slash was. So Mist Slash being able to ignore any abilities was huge because of 2 cards. Sorry, I should be very clear. Any deck that revolved around Keldeo and the Gardevoir and Sylveon deck. So being able to stop Keldeo's ability and then hit it for 130 put a lot of pressure on like Quagnag, ADP, those kind of decks where they're like, oh my god, I'm going to die. I think it has become slightly less useful in the modern era only because of the inclusion of Mallow and Lana. Being able to miss-slash Keldeo for 130 doesn't mean a whole lot if they're just going to be able to heal all that damage off and then hit you for damage, and you just find yourself, you've kind of gone negative there. Because if they've gone for Altered Creation and then Sonic Edged you, they're going to deal 10 more damage than you were able to deal, and then you've gone nowhere at this stage. It was a really good addition though. Greninja, so there's a few reasons why this grid is great. So obviously hitting Keldeo and hitting Guardians through Fairy Charm ability or Fairy Charm Psychic is very, very good. Super duper appealing. There's not a whole lot of other things, I guess. Well, actually no, so Lucario Melmetal, it does actually mean that Mewtwo can 2-shot that, no matter if it's gone for the full metal plus Frying Pan combo that it has. You'll always 2-shot it, so that's put a lot of pressure on your opponent to hit the right cards to be able to save it. But there's 2 other reasons why this Greninja is great, and why I think it's a staple now in the Mewtwo. So, first of all, the ability is nuts. So, I only learned about this heading into, I think, a league challenge. So, my run, once learning about this Greninja ability, was back-to-back second places at league challenges, top 4 League Cup, top 32 regional, and almost in every single one of those competitions, I got to use Elusive Master in what I think is the best way possible. So, as you know, Johnny, from playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, there's 2 kinds of effects. There's an effect, well, lots of effects, but you can either have a monster effect that happens in the hand, or it can be on the field. Now, Power Plant prevents any activation of anything on the field, but Elusive Master is an effect that is activated in the hand, and when Greninja is played onto the field, that is meeting the effect. Which means that if Greninja is the only card in your hand, you can actually play it down, bypass Power Plant, and still draw 3 cards. Which, to me, when I learned that, was nuts. Because when you play against birds now, like Pidgey Control, they'll just go for Chip Ice Axe into a Cherish Ball and think, there's no GX they can hit that really helps them, but you could just Cherish Ball into Greninja, play it down, and have 3 cards in hand, and 9 times out of 10, you are winning on that turn. So, that was busted. Dark Mist GX is also great, because being able to spin something back, like I said to you before we recorded, I played Brent Tonneson in the 3rd round, who ended up being runner-up for the entire tournament. I got unlucky and couldn't get into my Great Catcher, so I had to think of a way to tie the game. And what I ended up doing was Dark Mist GXing his Mewtwo on the bench with 4 energies back to his hand, so he couldn't just Welder and attach and then attack for game. So Greninja was a really solid card. I think in any competitive Mewtwo build, it is incredibly necessary for its ability to deal with Keldeo, Gardevoir and Sylveon, and Lucario and Melmetal.
Yeah, and you know what? I was looking.
Oh, sorry. I should have mentioned too. It breaks through Tag Purge. Sorry, I should have said that. Miss / break through Tag Purge.
Oh, really? No. So when I was looking at Greninja, I mean, Greninja when it came out, it would have been what, April-ish? We got, or actually it was last year, I think. This Greninja came out before Forbidden Light. It was looked at being played over the other Greninja. But it never really found its niche in the meta, and you know what, now it's something now that I look at it and the way you put it into perspective, it's something that works out very good. The one that I was looking at in your deck was just that regular Charizard GX from Hidden Fates, the infamous Hidden Fates set. I was kind of curious when I saw that in the deck, Would that just be for the GX attack, just being able to use that Flare Blitz? Yep. Discord cut out. Hopefully Discord didn't cut out. But...
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure when you finished your question there. I'm sorry.
How useful is just that regular...
I believe you were talking about Charizard GX, though.
Yeah, it's pretty much just trying to find, like, how useful it is. I mean, Mew3 is always going to be a GX-based deck. You're going to be...
Alright, so I'll break this one down. So, Charizard GX, in my opinion, has probably the best GX attack in the entire deck. To put it in perspective, Reshiram and Charizard GX can deal 300 damage for 6 fire energies. Charizard GX can do that with 2 fires and any 2 colorless energies. So, being able to have that ridiculous of an output, pardon me, and making it so incredibly free is just nuts. To put it, okay, so the best way I can describe this is the matchups in which this is used. And primarily, those 2 matchups are in the Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia matchup, and in the Mirror match. So, when you go first, you want to play Guzma and Hala. This will allow you to... Yes, it's a supporter for the turn, so you're not weldering. Doesn't even matter. All you need is a Rainbow, slap it on your Mewtwo, you'll be fine. Play your Giant half down if you're playing ADP, get your 2 fires in hand, and get ready to weld it next turn. And then next turn, all you have to do is use half to ditch one of those fires, potentially, grab 2 more so you have 3 in hand, and then welder, attach. You now, in 2 turns, have your 4 fire energies, which means Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia, say they went first. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt here. They went first against you. They slap 1 energy on, pass for turn. You've done your play, put 1 energy on your Mewtwo, pass for turn. Back to them. Another energy on, they altered Creation GX. Okay, sure. No other energies on the board, so I say, screw that. Welder, attach, bring Mew to the active, declare Flare Blitz GX. Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia has 280 HP, so you are knocking that shit right out, and they have no energies on board. So they have no comeback at that stage of the game. It is clearly... It's the same with the Mewtwo matchup. Why I said it depends on if you hit Welder or not is because of this. If you go first with Mewtwo, you want to be using Guzma and Hala to get your Weakness Guard energy. If you don't get Weakness Guard energy against my deck on turn 1, I will just search for Reshiram and Charizard, ditch it with a Giant Hearth, grab 2 energies, weld onto my Mewtwo, and then declare Double Blaze GX, hit you for weakness, and do 400 and knock you out. And I just win the game, because like, what is your comeback to that? You got nothing. So, it is an insanely good card that just swings games. It single-handedly wins you the Mewtwo matchup, it puts a shit ton of pressure on ADP, and just blows up like fat stuff. It's really good against Dark Box as well, but nobody runs Dark Box.
Well,
just
I tried to, but
look, I mean, the Dark Box could be good, but I haven't really seen how yet. I think it has so much potential, but I just haven't seen a list that's really put it on the map yet, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, no, I'm somebody that I love playing Dark Box because I love a lot of the Pokemon. If you played Turbo Dark back in the Black and White days, this is pretty much just Turbo Dark Turbo Dark decks on steroids. Even back when we had Aqua Patch, we had Turbo Water decks early in the Sun and Moon. That's pretty much.
We're gonna get Turbo Water decks again with Frostmoth, dude. It's gonna happen. They basically gave us another Deluge mod. But yeah, Charizard GX is dumb. Doing 300 damage for 4 energy is stupid. And it doesn't have an effect when you discard energies. Like, you remember the Mega Rayquaza that had the 300 damage for 5 energies, but you had to discard 2 of them to declare it?
Yep, that was back when Mega Rayquaza and Shane...
And that was back when that card was considered busted because it was able to do that. This card does it for 1 less energy, and there is no downside, other than you've used your GX attack for the game. But at that stage of the game, who cares? Because you've probably clicked this attack to take 3 prizes. And that puts you in a commanding position overall. So, I don't know. Charizard GX is probably the best GX attack in the game. I think just because of how instantly devastating it is for certain matchups.
I mean, just how easily you can...
Oh, dude, it's so free!
It's
so free!
Like, this is also a very easy card to get right now. And
oh god, yeah, dude.
And when you look at Charizard cards just on a collector standpoint, Charizard cards are stupidly high in value, but because this was a mass-produced one for those Hidden Fates tins, if you didn't get them on Black Friday at Target, you lost out on a $10 4-set of packs of Hidden Fates and then a Charizard that pretty much you just throw into a meta deck. So, when you look at...
It's just so good.
It's an expensive deck. So, I mean, this is one of the things that people don't like about card games. Back when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, this was Dragon Rulers, and back in Dragon Ruler format, you were spending almost $1,000 on a deck.
Yeah, it was so bad. It was so bad. So the big plus as well of this Mewtwo deck that I will point out to people is that Jirachi was actually reprinted in the Ultra Necrozma boxes as a regular rare, so it has become astronomically cheaper to obtain, which makes the deck actually a lot more budget. Granted, there are still, like, a lot of the GX cards are quite expensive, but I will say a lot of the single, like, trainers and supporters are not really that expensive.
No, as you guys see here on TCGO, it's very... If you guys want to try the deck on TCGO, getting your supporters, your item cards, is probably the easiest thing you're going to do. Now, in terms of buying the cards individually, there are some issues, with one of them being the elephant or the mouse in the room, Dedenne.
Yeah. Dedenne is always going to be kind of expensive. Dedenne, I would say, if for TCG buffs, it is basically the New Age Shaman. It is not as good as Shaman. It is nowhere near as good as Shaman. But in this deck, it is better than Shaman. So the reason being is that I want a lot of things in the discard. I don't mind if it's energy, because I have Solgaleo. I don't mind if it's certain supporters, because I have Cynthia and Caitlyn. And I don't mind if it's certain Pokemon, because Mewtwo will copy any of their attacks anyway. So, Dedenne's cost is not even really a cost to me. It's a plus. So, I only run 2, though. The reason for that is because in this meta, we were introduced to a very new card, which Johnny actually will have, I assume, on his list, which is Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff.
Yep.
So this card is stupid. I run it because it's a 3 energy attacker, which in Mewtwo is like welder attach. So that's just dumb. But this card is basically what just killed Pikarom. It is literally dead in the ground because of this single-handed card. Being able to do not only 60 on its own, but then an extra 60 to every GX that your opponent has in play is also what's kind of killed off a bit of Dedenne. Because normally in Mewtwo, you would have turns where you're playing, like, you have 4 turns in a row playing a Dedenne just to get through your deck to accelerate to a win con. But if you do that, to give you the math example, say you're playing against ADP, and they have Arceus, Dialga, and Palkia out with a Keldeo on the bench, and then they play down a Dedenne. If they have 3 GXs in play, Jumping Balloon does 240 damage for 3 energies, and it's 3 colorless energies. Which is just nuts. Like, Mewtwo can't play more than 4 GXs, or else they can't play more than 3. If they play down 4 GXs, Jumping Balloon does 300 damage for 3 colorless energies. So Malamar can play it. Any Welder deck can play it. Pikarom could play it. Like, Pikarom shouldn't play it because Pikarom's dead, but it could play it. Darkbox could play it. All these decks could run it, and that's why you can't afford to run a high Dedenne account. It's also why Jirachi's in the deck, so that you have other ways to do your filching and searching and whatnot without stacking your board and becoming prey to a Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff. So I guess that covers 2 cards in one there.
Oh, I mean, looking at this card, I was confused at it at first, and then I actually read Jumping Balloon, and I realized how stupid this card actually is in this meta.
Can you imagine how dumb it is in Expanded? Because is Jumping Balloon GX and EX, or just GX?
It's GX and EX.
Can you imagine how stupid that is in Expanded?
I mean, the damage output really doesn't need to be there, since, I mean, you can Skyfield, Jumping Balloon, and then it just gets really stupid.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, it really just goes down to, if this was like a Yu-Gi-Oh style format, right now I will tell you Welder is banned and will never come back.
It is the single dumbest card. Don't get me wrong, I love to win, and Welder wins me games. But the fact that it's like, hey, I'm going to take like 3 common effects and put them onto one card, and we're going to call that balance.
Yeah, you get attached to energy, and then you get to draw 3 cards. I mean, it's one of the cards that I remember them talking about, them possibly even instituting the first standard game, just because back when Reshizard was first introduced, this card was just stupid. Reshizard gets set up turn 1, and now, I mean, you just look at the way that this can be abused with Mewtwo, and I'm pretty sure that Pokemon wasn't intending for this to happen, where you have stuff like Mewtwo, Mew, Lopunny, Jigglypuff that are just going to abuse a card that's basically built for fire decks. This is Dragon Rulers all over again. They built these dragons for attribute-based decks, and then everybody's like, hey, let's just put them all together.
100%, dude. Mewtwo is Dragon Rulers.
That's what I'm seeing with Mew3 right now. Mew3 is just literally Dragon Rulers in Pokemon format, where there's all these Pokemon that are created to be for certain decks. Like, we have Naganadel. Naganadel was supposed to be Ultra Beast support. When I saw this, I got hyped because I loved playing Ultra Beast decks. From Blacephalon, you also had just the old Naganadel that you could run with the baby Naganadels, stack a bunch of energy on the board and hit for big numbers. Well, Naganadel's just using Ultra and just Mew3 at this point right now.
No, I will just refute that. There is other decks running Naganadel.
I think I saw Keldeo, a couple Keldeo variants with it.
Yes, so there is that Naganadel being run in Quagnag still, primarily because Naganadel is actually not a bad target for red and blue. Being able to attach 2 energies onto it means you could actually actively find a psychic energy to give it, or a rainbow, whatever you're feeling like using at the time. And then being able to use Quagsire with Washout allows you to easily Venom Shot and then recover the energies from Venom Shot freely with your Naganadels. So you basically beat any Stall matchup because you can always just snipe the bench, even if it's got Pokedolls. So that's kind of nuts. It's also just very strong in Blacephalon still, just as a card in general. But the reason why Naganadel is kind of here is because Venom Shot is just a really easily abusable card. In a meta where people are always scared of losing their Pokemon and then losing the game, they'll retreat them and try and hide them and be like, haha, you can't hit me, I am safe. And Naganadel says, no, like, you're not. It's just an easy, we call it a snipe, basically.
Yep.
It is effectively a snipe Pokemon. Nothing is really safe. The fact that it hits 170 means the Denes are getting shot off on the bench and you take 2 prizes for free. Really easy way to close out games. Also, fun fact, because my deck runs Rainbow Energy, I have once before in a game declared Injection GX because my opponent, what did they do? I had to try and remember to get... I was playing a Blacephalon guy, and he used the Naganadel with Stinger GX to put both of us down to 3 prizes, and next turn he was going to try and go for Mind Blown with his Blacephalon to win the game. So I used Injection GX instead to give him 1 extra prize card. So when his Blacephalon had to waste all the energies to knock out my Mewtwo, I was able to reset stamp, reverse knock out his Blacephalon, and then just couldn't draw anything to get him out of it. Because he declared Stinger, he couldn't use Burst GX to win the game, and I ended up winning that. So Injection can sometimes be good, but you're mainly just using this card because Venom Shot is broken. Killing the Denes is easy.
Yeah, 170, you look at the Dene, 160. Now, I think when we look at going into Sun and Moon, or Sword and Shield meta, I don't think you're going to see much of the Sword and Shield V cards used much at all when you look at some of the basic ones. Now, you look at stuff like Snorlax. Snorlax has a Gigantamax V card, or what I forget what they call them, where the HP is a little bit higher. But when you look at some of the basic ones, you're seeing like Indeedee has like 170 HP. A lot of these Pokemon V cards, they're not overly powered in terms of HP to continue with what we have going on here in late Sun and Moon. That's what I'm seeing initially.
Yeah, I think there's a few really good supporter cards and trainer cards that are going to be amazing heading into the new meta, but we'll have to wait and see what some of the new V cards, how good they become. It'll take some testing, obviously, which is exciting. The only downside of the new set, obviously, is Cosmic Eclipse was the last set where Mewtwo could actually copy attacks. But what the new sets do bring for Mewtwo is the potential to add some new cards to the deck. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the trainer cards Mewtwo already has is busted, but that's, I think, sometimes the one lacking part of the deck. So if we can have some more kind of broken stuff to use, that's pretty exciting. But are there any other GXs? Because I know there's a few like kind of spicy ones that I've added in here that maybe perplex you when you look at the other Mewtwo lists.
The one that I was looking for that I didn't see much of was the Venusaur Snivy.
That was the one.
I looked at it, I'm like, okay, we got the Rainbow Energy. Of course, we have Welder. I mean, anything that has colorless energy, you have to play Welder or you're just borderline dumb. But Venusaur Snivy was one that I looked at. I was just like, a little unsure of why that's even here. I don't think it hits any weakness in the meta either.
No, it doesn't need to. So, Venusaur Snivy, why I came up with this card before Brisbane. I was playing a League Cup. I got to the top 4, and I was playing against Baby Lucephalon. That's the one that has Fireball Circus.
Yes.
And they run it with birds, and I fucking... sorry, I don't mean to swear on this channel, but I hate birds. I'm a Mewtwo player. I'm prone to hating birds. So I lost to him in straight sets in the League Cup because the play for Mewtwo in that matchup is to try and use Cross Division GX with Espeon Deoxys. Just going to put this out there as a quick thing for Espeon Deoxys. Busted card. Slap those 6 energies on, put 200 damage wherever you want. It bypasses Mew's bench barrier because you're putting damage counters, not dealing damage. And you just smash so many matchups. The issue against Blounds was, the race was, okay, who's going to get there first? Blounds hitting 9 energies, so they could have 3 on the active, and then declare Fireball Surface for Mewtwo knockout. Or Mewtwo hitting the 6 energies off of double Welder attach on back-to-back turns to declare Cross Division to knock out 3 birds to put them in a good position. And the answer is always Pidgey. Pidgey is way more consistent, way more effective, so it will win that every time. So I had to think of a way, without changing too much of the deck, to combat that. And the idea that I had was the combination of adding Venusaur and Snivy, Mew, and Spell Tag. So in normal lists, those 3 cards are normally another Jirachi, another Escape Board, and then probably an extra Great Catcher, I would say. Why I added those 3 was not just for Blacephalon matchups, but it does justify why, like, it's the main reason Venusaur and Snivy is there. Solar Plant GX does 50 damage to every Pokemon my opponent has. So, against birds, this is how you play it. And I tell you, I've been using this strategy on Line Jump, and it literally turns the matchup from auto-loss to auto-win. So, you have 1 Mewtwo inactive, 1 on the bench. You play the exact same way you normally would. Charge up the active Mewtwo, maybe Turbo Strike early game to get the bench Mewtwo with, let's just say, 1 or 2 energies chilling on it just in case. But your whole premise is, you're making that active Mewtwo look like a hell of a threat. So the ideal turn is 4 energies on the active Mewtwo, and maybe 2 or 1 energy on the... even no energy on the bench one, doesn't really matter. If you have Welder in hand and the way of searching fire energies, that bench one can have diddly squat for all I care. But on that turn, if you have, say, 3 or 4 energies on the active Mewtwo, you slap on the Spell Tag. Now, a lot of people will be knowing Spell Tag from Malamar players. It is never really used in Mewtwo, but I'm going to drop you some facts as to why it should be. So, when you play this bird matchup, you slap a Spell Tag on that active Mewtwo, and you essentially have just begun a game of chess with your opponent. They have to say, right, I either knock out this Mewtwo, but then he puts a bunch of damage counters on each of my things, and since Pidgey has 60 HP, if he has 4 Pidgeys on his bench, I put 1 damage counter on each of those, I Welder onto my other Mewtwo, and I declare Solar Plant GX and take 4 prizes in 1 turn. Now, Alternatively, my opponent can be like, I don't want that to happen. I'm going to gust up his other Mewtwo that has no energies on it, knock that out, avoid that from happening. Which then he just plays into the fact that I can reset stamp him still, and then just cross division anyway. So a lot of people were confused as to why the hell I would run Espeon, Deoxys, and Venusaur and Snivy. It is for the fact that if you have both, then with the spell tag, you put your opponent in a position where you are guaranteed to pretty much knock out 3 birds, no matter what, on your next turn, and put an insane amount of pressure on. A lot of times in the matchup, you would not be able to do this. And the reason why the Mew is good too, sorry, I did not even mention this. The reason why the Mew is amazing is because, say you use Solar Plant GX, but the spell tag is prized. So with the active Mewtwo with the 3 energies on it, you start charging up the bench one, and you declare Solar Plant GX. And then when you play down the Mew, Psy Power puts 3 damage counters on any of your opponent's Pokemon. All of those Pidgeys have been chipped by 50, so you bring up the Mew, you reset stamp, and you knock out 3 birds. And they then have to have a great catcher to bring up a Mewtwo to be able to push for the game. Otherwise, they're just knocking out a Mew. And if they do that, my Mewtwo comes up and gets another knockout, and then I put him in an even harder position. So the Venusaur and Snivy, unfortunately, didn't see a lot of play in Brisbane, primarily because I never played against a deck that was running Baby Blacephalon or Malamar. The Malamar matchup's also amazing because if you didn't know, if you have 5 energies attached to your Mewtwo when you declare Solar Plant GX, you actually heal all damage from all of your Pokemon at the same time. So against Malamar,
Giratina's.
You do. Yeah, do. So this is the thing, right? Giratinas have a habit of putting 50 damage onto 40 damage onto a Malamar in the Mewtwo matchup because they know that if they put damage on themselves, the Mewtwo can just safely go for Turbo Strike onto a bench Mewtwo and just set up for a cross division. But now in this matchup, if they choose to do that onto a Malamar, and then you don't even get the knockout with Turbo Strike, so say like, what I would do is if my opponent put it onto the Malamar, I Turbo Strike to do that damage, they put another bit on the Malamar, then I just declare, so I've been hit for 260 off Double Shadow Impact, I have 10 HP remaining, I put 5 energy on that Mewtwo, declare Solar Plant, knock out the Giratina and 2 Malamars, take 3 prizes, and heal all damage. Like, it sounds really stupid, but in those matchups now, I just feel like it takes them from being really dicey to incredibly winnable, if not now, like, in your favor.
And you know what?
I'm telling you, man, there's a method to the madness.
And you know what? With Mewtwo, I feel like you're actually allowed to get away with this. I mean, Mewtwo, when it wants, can have a matchup against any deck. I mean, Bird's broken this down pretty much deck for deck. So we have Charizard to deal with ADP. You have Venusaur Snivy, which it was a galaxy, you know what, galaxy brain play here that you now put birds, and birds are just spies by the government to control us. You just look at what that does. You have Mew, which can spread damage. You have Solar Plant GX that kills those Pidgeys. And if you've played Pokemon in any way, shape, or form, you've probably killed your fair share of Pidgeys. And
oh, fun fact too, sorry, I just want to point this out. I never came up, I never had a chance, but if on the off chance you actually have to play the Venusaur and Snivy down onto your active, I learned that if you attach a Rainbow Energy to the Venusaur and Snivy, you actually get the effect of Shining Vine, allowing you to gust up an opponent's Pokemon. So, I don't know if that would ever become useful or viable, but I guess if you ever want to declare Forest Dump for game, you've got that option.
That's just, that, you know what, that's just when it turns into really big brain play. I'm looking at that, that's just...
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. Like, I've never been in a situation where I've had to do it. That's thankfully because of the high Jirachi and Mewtwo count. You're guaranteed to pretty much open with one of them in the majority of your hands, and both of them are the exact thing you want to be opening with, so it's fine.
And you know what, just Pokemon TCG is that. Yeah, you know what, Yu-Gi-Oh's that as well. You always have set cards in any form of combo deck that you want to open up with. And, I mean, just Jirachi in general. If you're playing Jirachi in your deck, you want to open with the Jirachi because it just opens up so many things for you. This is going back to before Mew3 even was released. We're playing Jirachi in February, and you're dropping a Jirachi, you're searching out items, or you have the items and you're searching out a Lily so that you can fill up your hand. I mean, just looking at the deck, I like the way it's built, and I like the text that you have in there. I like that Snivy and Venusaur, the way that you explained it. It makes perfect sense why you would play it. And then same thing with Espeon. I play Espeon in Giratina Garchomp just because its GX attack is stupidly good. And it's just something that, against stall players like those bird control decks, it does tremendous damage. So, moving on from this, what are your plans in terms of getting those remaining 124 points to see you in London?
So, I actually am meant to be having a double league challenge this weekend. You only get 15 CP for winning a league challenge. Unfortunately, one of them is on my father's birthday, so I'm going to have to pass on that one. But there's another one on the following day. So this Sunday coming up, I have a league challenge where I can grab 15 CP there. Anytime a league cup comes around, if I win one of them, that's 50 CP. The next big chance to probably just lock and seal it away is in February, which is the Australian International Championship, or the IC. It's being held in Melbourne. Going to be a ton of people there. If, and it's a big if, I can get, say, top 32 for that. Even top 64 would be nuts, but top 32 for that, I think, gets me like 150 CP. So that would just be enough on its own to top cut, well, not top cut, so top 32 that event would do it. Even top 64ing it is probably going to give me enough to kind of carry over. So that'll be the big one. But following that, Australia has 2 more regionals before Worlds. There is a regional in Perth, which occurs, I think, in April. Sorry, I'm not sure. It's Sydney or Perth. One is before the other. I can't remember exactly which one.
Perth is March, and then Sydney's in May.
Yeah. So Perth first, and then Sydney. When they are done, then it's pretty much the World Championship after that. But to put in perspective, I've had currently a bunch of League Cups and League Challenges, and 1 regional, and I've got half my points from just those. So I assume with an International Championship, 2 more regionals, and a bunch of League Challenges and Cups in between, I'm hoping it's wrapped up by February. That would be ideal, to know that it basically just took me 6 months of learning a game to be able to be invited to the World Championships. So it would be kind of nuts. Just have to wait and see. I'm also curious to see if the meta does change when February hits, because I believe the new set is dropping just before the IC. So we'll be curious to kind of test out some proxies with a bunch of the guys that I do testing with to see, like, if there's any certain cards that can be good. I really think that heading into the meta, Mewtwo could also see a bit of a change in that instead of being like a welder-focused deck, if this Frostmoth is as broken as people are expecting it to be, then I could see like Water Mewtwo making a resurgence again. There are a lot of water Pokemon with really good attacks that Mewtwo can exploit. So I'd be kind of curious to see what happens. As far as how soon will I think it's going to happen, I'm hoping just 3 months at best.
I mean, trying to get locked probably before the IC is probably the ideal situation. That way you can spend March all the way up until the World Championship really just trying to perfect whatever Sword and Shield may have in store for us. Not much information as far as the TCG English side of things. Japan should be getting their set actually within the next 2 weeks. We should have everything that Japan's getting for the Sword and Shield base set, to my knowledge, and then we will get it the first week of February. So for those that want to know English releases, whether it's UK, Australia, United States, we get those the first Friday of February, May, August, and November. That's the way it's been for a while now. So you'll see Sword and Shield launch February 3rd, 4th, right in that range. I've not done much research myself. I've learned a lot from just what Verd's gone over so far in understanding the meta, and I actually understand what's being played, how it's played. I understand why Mewtwo is dominating the format, but this isn't something like Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! If there was one good deck, everybody was playing this deck. Pokemon is not that way. Pokemon, I was looking at the top 16 from the Brisbane Regionals. I think I saw 8 different decks in that top 16, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just because Verd's playing Mewtwo here doesn't mean Mewtwo is the deck that everybody's going to have success with. We have ADP, you have Malamar, Giratina, which was top 4. You have Giratina Garchomp, Reshiram Charizard, you have Balloons, you have Lucario Melmetal. Pokemon has options for you guys. You guys do not have to lock yourself into one deck. Some players just have certain play styles. But Verd, you know what? It was great having you here. I'm glad you're playing the TCG and the success you've had within the last 6 months from playing a lot of Draft League, Smogon, now over to the TCG. It's just something that if you guys want to follow Verd, you guys can go to limitlesstcg.com. You guys can check standings from tournaments. You guys can get deck lists from there as well that you guys can try out. Also, go follow Verd on Twitter. We'll have his link in the description down below, guys. But please go ahead and like this video and congratulate Verd on his success that he's had here in the TCG.
I very much appreciate that, man. Johnny and I, like he said, we've known each other for a long time, so it's pretty good that we can kind of share stuff like this, given that he's been kind of more into it for a longer period of time, and I'm only still a bit fresh to it, but it's been really good. But if I had a recommendation for anybody to start the game, much like in Yu-Gi-Oh! Everyone recommends Salamangreat because they had all their best cards printed basically in the structure decks. I can't speak highly of that enough when it comes to Malamar. 75% of the regional top 3 deck from from top 4 deck from Brisbane Regionals was effectively from that structure deck. Yes, the other cards can be a little bit expensive to find, but you can get the cheapest arts. It doesn't matter as much. The deck in total will cost you maybe $100. And in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, that is incredibly cheap, incredibly budget, and it is a deck that has just topped one of the big regionals in the world and saw 2 top 8s in San Diego. So I think it's something definitely that I would recommend new players to explore. I think also the playstyle, for the most part, is incredibly linear, which is an easier way to understand things. I think Mewtwo is incredibly complex, especially in my list. It's pretty stupid, but it gives you so many options, which is what I guess I like playing. It's the same as when I played Pokemon, man. I like using teams where they could be defensive and offensive, and this deck feels a bit the same. Definitely more of an aggressive deck, but also can play the grind game if necessary, which is something I liked.
Yeah, I mean, just an idea right now. We did talk about those Malamar, or those Necrozma boxes that were released here within the last month. You guys can go, if you're in the States, you guys can go to your Targets, your Walmarts. They're going to have these boxes for $20. Now, what's in that box for $20 that you want? 2 copies of Jirachi. That right there is the bulk of what Malamar Giratina pricing is. So you're spending $40 on those 2 boxes. After that, all you really need to do are buy your great catchers, buy your Blacephalon, buy your Megalopunny, Jigglypuff, and your other 2 GXs for that deck, and you can go to your locals, play your league cups, play your league challenges for under $70. I think that's what Papa C said that he spent on his, and he just went to a league challenge the other day and finished top 4 with Malamar. So it's a deck that I recommend for you guys to pick up. But again, Verd, thanks for being here. It was something, I saw your success. I wanted to have you on the TTM channel, sit down, discuss with you what it's actually like. I've actually not gone to a Pokemon regional in quite a while, so it's been a while for me. So I wanted to sit down, talk with you, get your words, your thoughts, and how you played your deck. And thank you for a lot of those big brain explanations on how to play your deck. And hopefully we see you on the World Championship stage next year in London.
Yeah, man, that's the plan. Thank you very much for having me again. Would love to come back sometime, and also, I'll extend the olive branch, I guess, if you are looking for somebody to maybe do some TCG games against, where you want to test certain decks. I also have been looking into a lot of the current decks and looking to buy basically all of them online. So if there's any certain matchups you'd like to kind of show the lovely folks that watch the TCM channel, I'm more than happy to help you out with that, man.
You know what? I'm always down for a best of 3, Verd. It was great having you, man. I'll talk to you later.
Peace out.